This game is titled in a way that is more accurate than any other I've ever seen. The game involves gods, doing things for gods, a lot of clicking, and you eventually realising that this game is actually fairly awful and why did I spend so much time on it. The game revolves around endlessly clicking on enemies to attack them, clicking on yourself to heal, and clicking on menus and things to get perks and stuff for your character. The combat itself is the simplest part because it's just clicking. You can set the combat on an auto-clicker and therefore you don't even have to interact with it if you don't want to. Your extra abilities that you have at the bottom, including spells, could also be on a timer to auto-discharge once their delay has ended, so you don't even have to click on those either. The other stuff you get include increasing your armour, your skills, you get gods on your side to give you boosts to strength and abilities, you get blessings that increase auto-click speed and health regen and magic power regen and stamina regen and a whole load of other stuff that's too much to mention. You can collect artifacts that simply pop out of enemies every once in a while, and these are specific to a certain god or goddess, and if you collect a certain amount of them, it will increase the power of the perk that that god or goddess gives you. You can sacrifice money to the gods/goddesses to fill their power meters and make sure they're still endowing their blessings on you, because if they run out, then you don't get their perks. You also need your money to do a kind of lottery for your armour. You pay a certain amount and a random piece of armour will pop up that has a random quality level and a random perk. The armour quality is graded, so better armour gives better perks, and you have to cycle through the armour lottery until you find something decent. Then you can add it to your character. If you add something by accident that you didn't want, then too bad, because you can't get your good stuff back. And as you get to higher levels and you get more money, the armour lottery also increases in price, making sure that you get absolutely no benefit from being a higher level for it. Once you get past a certain amount of levels, you get a boss. Once you beat the boss, you move on to the next chunk of levels. However, the monsters you battle increase in level faster than you do, and by nothing more than the natural progression of the game, you can end up 10 levels lower than your enemies. That means that when a boss appears, you're way under-leveled and you can't beat it. What's the solution to that? Well, the game keeps you on the same wave of enemies and just keeps sending more and more at you until you level up, and you just have to grind through them all until you're over-leveled, then pick when you're ready to have another go at the boss and beat them, and it carries on as before. Then it's fine for another 15 levels or so, and then you have to go through the whole thing again. The biggest problem with the game is that it's repetitive. It has some variety in enemies, but they get repetitive, and after a while you've seen them all. Bosses sometimes are just the same as standard enemies, but with a fancy name. The combat might as well not exist, it's not even a fighting game at all. Your character makes one movement to fight over and over again, no matter what you do. The armour lottery gets useless because no matter how high your level is, you end up needing so much money for it that you're only good for 2 spins, and there's no guarantee that you'll even get anything better quality despite the fact that you're a higher level. And the levels are endless. You could sit there for hours and hours and hours and feel no sense of accomplishment. It's the same technique for every level and every boss. You barely even have to play the game other than picking out power-ups and perks, and it's basically just an endurance test to see how long it takes you to get bored. Even the power-ups and perks are too expensive at one point, and you just end up not being able to do anything. The art for the characters is decent, and there is a bit of challenge in the way of finding out what the hell all the other stuff you get given does. But there's barely any game in the game, it's just a power-up selection game basically, and maybe some people like that, but I prefer to actually do the combat myself, and do a bit more than just smashing M1 and M2 repeatedly. There's not enough there's not enough gameplay interaction for me, and so unfortunately I'll be giving it a 3 out of 10, because good idea and smart title, but there was literally no point me even being there. The game could have played itself.